to my YouTube channel. If you love to solve a mystery, you've come to the right place. Grab yourself a pen and paper and together we're going to look at mysteries and try to solve them. My name is Beth MacIntosh. I'm a physical medium in the same way that physical media transmits data in data communications. I have seen apparitions and visions since I was a child. Victims of crime send me downloads of information that give me the facts of every case. So let me show you how this works. When you send a text message or a picture or video from this mobile device to another device, you do not see the pictures or words float in the air and land on the chosen device. Instead, you take for granted that the images and words magically appear from one device to the other. In reality, electromagnetic energy is used to transmit your message via satellite and then arrive at its destination. It's the same with mediumship. I can see the data better if I wear a blindfold, similar to a virtual reality mask. It is science that allows me to see into the past and into the future, not hocus pocus. You will witness how this works firsthand. I invite you to write down clues and facts and piece together what we believed happened in every case. Enter comments below, but please be respectful of other people's comments and keep this an engaging and respectful channel. Thank you so much. So, let's get into today's mystery. Hello again everybody, this is the case of Lizzie Borden. By all appearances, the Borden family were a successful household in the small town of Fall River in Massachusetts. The father of the household was Andrew Jackson Borden. He was a wealthy banker and property owner and was a well-respected member of the community. He had married for the second time to Abby Borden and had two daughters from his previous marriage, Lizzie and Emma, who were now both grown up. On the 4th of August 1892, both Andrew and Abby were found murdered in their home. The murder weapon was an axe. The prime suspect became Lizzie Borden herself. After all these years, no motive was ever found for the murders, and despite being charged with the crime, Lizzie herself was later acquitted. I get to the point of this case for a reason. Unravelling the facts and a motive is going to be difficult, so have a pen and paper ready as we begin our investigation. What is peculiar to me is that a couple of days prior to the murders, Abby had cooked some mutton, and the household, including the maid Bridget, were now eating leftovers. Emma was away visiting friends, so was not present at the time of the crime. A man called John Vinicum Morse was staying at the home and ate mutton for his breakfast. John was Andrew's brother-in-law by his first marriage. Bridget was very ill and felt sick on the day of the murder. The rest of the household complained of stomach cramps and vomiting. Although Bridget was feeling very ill, Abby had instructed her to clean windows, and mid-term Bridget abandoned the cleaning to throw up her breakfast in the garden. Aware that she would receive criticism of using leftover meat, Abby commented at the time that she thought someone was trying to poison them. This is our first question. Was someone trying to poison the Borden household? If so, why? I find it a bit strange that a man's brother-in-law from a previous marriage is allowed to still see the daughters and stay at the Borden household. What was he doing there? This was my next question. What had happened to Andrew Borden's first wife? Had she passed away? Did Andrew murder or poison her? Did John know and was blackmailing him? Indeed, John Morse was the first suspect. He helped run Andrew's properties and was technically one of Andrew's managers. He had an alibi and was not at the property when the murders took place. So who was where and when at the time of the murders? Lizzie was outside in the barn, which was later proved to be the case. Emma was out of town. Bridget, weary after her sickness, chose to go upstairs and lay down in her room and try and recover. Abby was also upstairs cleaning a guest room where she was later found. Andrew came home from his office at 10:45 a.m. and as the day was a very hot one, he chose to lay down on a sofa in the sitting room and rest. This also was where he was later found. If Abby was upstairs with Bridget on the same floor, how did Bridget not hear a commotion surrounding Abby being axed to death? There were rumours of Bridget and Lizzie working together to kill her parents, but this was never proven. The window of opportunity was very tight. Bridget had met Andrew at the door at 10:45. They both noticed that the front door had been locked and bolted from the inside. They both were not sure why this had been done. Lizzie had also met her father at the door and asked him how he was feeling, for he too was ill and very weak from the mutton sickness. Did Lizzie go to the barn afterwards? Bridget complained that she too was ill, and after greeting Andrew, she then went upstairs for a lie down. She recalls that as she lay on her bed, she heard the town hall clock chime 11 a.m. So was Abby already dead? So Bridget saw Andrew alive at 10:45. 11 a.m. she heard the town hall clock. At 11:10, she hears Lizzie shouting at her up the stairs. "Come down, quick! Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him." Where the timing was so tight, one would jump to the conclusion that it had to be Lizzie. Other than Bridget, she was the only other person in the house. Lizzie does seem convinced that someone else did it. According to witnesses, she was pale and distressed at the death of her father, whom they found first. Bridget was sent to get a doctor for him. Did Lizzie still hope her father was alive? The doctor only lived across the road, and he returned to the house with neighbours. I'm not sure why neighbours were involved, other than Bridget had seen how distressed Lizzie was and presumed she would need comfort and support. A neighbour, Mrs. Churchill, would further witness that Lizzie was in a state over her father's death. The doctor asked Bridget to obtain a sheet from upstairs to cover Andrew's body. She did not want to go upstairs on her own in case the burglar or murderer was upstairs, but Mrs. Churchill offered to go upstairs with her. They obtained a sheet and returned immediately downstairs to cover the body. Mrs. Churchill then asked Lizzie of the whereabouts of Mrs. Borden. The reply was a strange one. She said, "I don't know, but she is killed too, for I thought I heard her come in." I think Lizzie meant to say, "I don't know, I thought I heard her come in. She may be killed too." Her style of language could be open to misinterpretation. Mrs. Churchill and Bridget went upstairs and found Abby in the guest room. This is when they discovered the gruesome body of Abby, who had also been axed to death. Andrew Borden was known to be a wealthy but stingy man who was, however, happy to spend money on his second wife, but not the daughters. It would be interesting to find out if Andrew was also stingy with his first wife. I'm going to be honest with you, I may be wrong. This is what I would like to know. How did the divorce settlement go? John was first-hand witness as to how prosperous Andrew was becoming. Assuming the daughters were still in contact with their natural mother, news would get back to her that Andrew's money was going to the wrong hands and not the daughters. Maybe the ex-wife had a grudge. The reason why I am leaning towards this direction is that no money was taken from the property. There was no burglary, so I think it was a hit job. Lizzie Borden's dress should have been covered in blood, but wasn't if she had been the killer. There was, however, some strange behaviour on the part of Lizzie the day before the murders. Someone, answering to the description of Lizzie, had tried to purchase poison from 3 chemists, stating that she had some moths to kill. All 3 chemists refused to sell her the poison. Later that same day, she visited a friend and confided in a Miss Russell. She stated that she was worried that someone was trying to poison them. It's odd that you should say this after trying to buy poison. Was she just trying to create her own alibi? She further mentioned to her friend that $100 had been stolen from Andrew's desk only 2 months earlier in June. But Andrew decided not to pursue charges on the grounds that the burglar would probably not be caught. Lizzie confided in her friend that she thought the burglar had broken in through the cellar door. As she parted company with her friend, she said she was afraid something bad was going to happen, saying, "I'm afraid somebody will do something." I think the $100 was the contract killer's money. Maybe Lizzie suspected John was going to organise the death of both stepmother and father, but couldn't prove it. Lizzie was arrested primarily because witnesses testified that she'd argued with her father over money and that this would be a strong motive. Lizzie did not like her father squandering money on a stepmother. It was also witnessed by many that she had a serious hate relationship with her stepmother, which would have created another strong motive to see her dead. It transpires that Abby had been killed at least an hour before Andrew's death, at around 9:30 a.m. John Morse may have not caused the deaths, but he could have orchestrated the contract killing, made sure he had an alibi, and then turned up at the property 20 minutes after the murders just to make sure it had been done. I am totally guessing here. The murder weapon was never found, suggesting that the killer may have left the property with it. Years later, another motive was uncovered, which is hard to ignore. The sisters were angry with their father 5 years earlier for purchasing a house for his wife Abby, but not for them. 5 years later, on the day of the murder, Andrew was about to transfer deeds to Abby for another property, but he was killed before this could be done. This deed could never be traced, but remnants of burnt parchment were found by a police officer in the kitchen stove. This just gets more complicated, as I wondered how and why Abby could manipulate a man so much that he was handing property over to her name. If she had not have died earlier, I would have thought her as a prime suspect in the killing of Andrew. Was she poisoning everyone so that she could end up with the lot? Witness statements between Bridget and Lizzie did not tally. Lizzie stated she thought Bridget started washing windows at 9 a.m. Bridget states it was 9:30 a.m. Whatever the timing, it all seems staged. Emma is out of the way, seeing friends. John is out of the way until 20 minutes after the murders. Bridget is out of the way in the garden cleaning windows. Lizzie is out of the way in the barn, but I may be wrong, this could be coincidence. A final twist is the account on the day that Lizzie relays to her father. When he arrived home, Lizzie states that Abby is out seeing to someone who is sick and had been given a note to that effect. This is 10:45 a.m. But Abby is upstairs already dead, and no note was ever found. So guys, what do you think happened? If you need time to pause, then please do so. These are the questions that I need to ask. I'm first going to ask Bridget what happened through her eyes. So write down, was Bridget telling the truth? I'm then going to ask Lizzie, did you try to buy poison the day before the murders? If so, why? Write down if you believe that Lizzie was telling the truth about the poison. And then I'm going to ask John, was he involved in the murders? Was there a contract killer? And finally, I'm going to ask Andrew, show me what happened on the day. Press pause now if you want to solve this on your own. Press continue if you need to know my answers. So guys, in vision, I was shown the following. I saw the celestial steps to heaven, and Bridget was waiting for me. She was in a state. Her hands were trembling. Her hands were wringing like Lady Macbeth, as if washing her hands. She was crying. I felt she had a strong Irish accent. She said Andrew was a Abby was a They had it coming to them. Hated by all. I asked her, why did Andrew give Abby the properties? She replied, stupid love. I asked, do you know who killed Abby and Andrew? She replied, I didn't do it, but I knew it was going to happen. I asked her, how did you know it was going to happen? She said, Miss Borden confided in her. I asked, did she know who did it? She replied that she was glad to get it off her chest. She would not tell me who killed them. She stated 3 times, not me, not me, not me. She had carried the burden of knowing all these years, and I believe she was innocent. I then helped her be reunited with her loved ones and return to God. It was a beautiful reunion. So guys, in vision, I then asked Lizzie to tell me what happened on the day, and I asked about the poison. I went into vision, and this is what I was shown. Lizzie was anxious and pacing up and down, waiting for me. I assured her I was there in love and not judgment. I asked her about the poison. She did not answer, but gave me this message regarding her relationship with her father. There had been abuse. I saw him swipe her across the face, and on occasion he took the belt to her. He wanted to keep his daughters there for his own benefit. She said that Emma, for years, had got the brunt of the abuse. This was the reason for the divorce from her mother. I asked if it was possible for Emma and her to go and live with her mother. She said that they had no form of income and were kept with their father as slaves, like possessions. There would always be promises of money and houses, but these were never forthcoming. I asked why this was the case. She replied that her father knew that if he gave them houses and money, suitors would come a-calling, and he wanted to keep them there. He kept them trapped with no prospect of getting married. He liked to control them and keep them as slaves. He liked his meals cooked a certain way. He liked his clothes pressed a certain way. If you did not comply, then he would strike us. Could not take any more. They knew that they could not marry without their father's money. She showed me her hands. They were pale but clean. I asked her, "Why are you showing me your hands?" She said, "Look, no rings." I wanted a ring on my hand. I wanted to be married and have children. I wanted so much to have a happy home life at last. I regret what happened, but I felt that I had no choice. Trapped, no way out. Her memory is years of pain and suffering. She does not remember what happened that day. The day is just a blur. I just remember being depressed, trapped and betrayed, she says. I asked again about the poison. She replied that the poison was too slow. The deaths needed to be quicker. She blacked out the day. No recollection. The deaths were a wish come true. No more pain. So guys, I decided to speak to John. In vision, I was shown the following. He was a loving, caring energy. As a gentleman, he shook my hand. He said, I was helpless. I loved the girls as if they were my own. I knew they were being abused. My sister suffered too. We offered our homes, but Andrew teased them with money and would cut them off if they left. I would have done anything for them, but not murder. I am a God-fearing man. There was no contract. I was not involved. I worked for Andrew because he paid me well. He paid me well because I knew so much about his business affairs. He was dodgy in his business dealings. I did think of using blackmail, but I know that blackmail means prison. If I ended up in prison, then I would not be there for the girls, and they would be in a worse position. I asked John if there was poison in the mutton. He said no, it was bad meat. I asked if he knew about the deeds. He said he did not agree with the property transfer and felt the property should go to the girls. He felt helpless, and this is when he thought of the blackmail but did not want to go to prison. He thanked me for helping Lizzie today. I had helped her be released to home and the correct place in God's eyes. She was not in hell, but will receive love and care from a place where she can progress. He shook my hand again to say goodbye, and as he walked away, he said again, I was not involved. My last witness was Andrew. So in vision, I was shown the following. Andrew was immediately hostile towards me and went to strike me across the face. He had not changed. I offered to pray for him, and again he tried to strike me across the face. I gave him the opportunity to tell the world his side of the story. He said he didn't care what the world thought of him. I asked if he believed in God. He stated that he didn't care what God thought of him either. I again stated that my record of this case would be there for all time. I gave him one last opportunity to clear his name, but he refused. I asked him what happened that day, and he refused to help me. He resented my involvement. His energy was becoming increasingly evil. I recited a powerful protection prayer, and he was released from my presence. May God protect me. Amen. That was a battle. As I encountered his personality, the words of Bridget came back to me. He was not a nice person, and he had not changed. He was conscience-free about his behaviour. I'm not sure he even knew he had a problem. So guys, I believe it was Lizzie that killed her parents. But she needed to let you guys know first the reason behind the murder. The reason why I believe it was her is because I saw a flash of her committing the murder. She did not have blood on her dress because she was not wearing a dress. She was wearing her undergarments. So guys, I'm going to leave you with a question. If Lizzie did kill her father Andrew, who is the more evil out of the two? The person who, after suffering years of abuse, finally snaps and ends the suffering and becomes a killer, or the one who imposes torture and abuse? I'll let you decide. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.